two of the core principles for any marketing plan that GrowthChannel has in the backend as well is first persona identification. So figuring out who is that ideal customer that you have, not just the demographics, but actually what is their like behavioral and psychographic profile, what their goals are, what are their pain points, what and who influences their decision, how they make their decision, what they like, what they don't like, and basically where do they hang out online, especially. And on the other side, you've got this customer journey map that we call it. It's basically identifying that content and channels, and especially the KPIs that you use for each of those personas. So then it's like your marketing strategy, the go-to that you would work on through the campaign execution.
This is another episode of the Automate and Grow podcast. My guest today is Maryna from GrowthChannel. Hopefully I got the company name right this time.
Yeah.
We were introduced by one of your investors, which is a friend of mine now, Zagub. Am I saying his name right? I'm terrible today at pronouncing people's names. So.
Yeah, Yagub.
Yagub, that's it. So first of all, you are a exciting startup in the Austin, Texas area, and there's a lot going on in Austin. So I'm excited to talk to you. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. Yes, Austin is most probably the best place to be today. So
it certainly seems that way. And we're all making various forms of moves there. Now, you've started GrowthChannel. So for people that are listening, what is GrowthChannel?
Yeah. So GrowthChannel eventually automates the marketing planning process for startups, small business owners, and marketers. So what we do, we actually bring AI marketing intelligence for full marketing planning and deliver everything from competitive intelligence down to website audit, persona identification, and customer journey mapping all in a single platform.
So what was the big problem that you saw that caused you to start this?
Yeah, so the problem is actually two-sided. So on one side, you've got startup founders and small business owners who are great at making good products, but are often bad at marketing. And there are over like 30 million small businesses in the US alone, and 100,000 of them closed this year during COVID. Not like COVID happened and they just didn't know what to do. So, but the ones who survived actually have to adjust their digital marketing strategy and figure out the way to grow their business next year and following. So that is where we come in. And on the other side, you've got marketing managers. I myself, just 3 years ago, was managing a marketing team at a big Fortune 500 company. And in there, we would just spend lots of time working with spreadsheets, PowerPoint slides, have multiple brainstorming sessions, sometimes even outsource it to agencies or contractors. And all of that would take lots of time and tens of thousands of dollars just for planning, even before going into marketing planning execution. So all of that takes time, money, and on top of that, there is actually no one human that can put their head around the whole internet, but AI actually can, and that's what we do with GrowthChannel.
So I think you hit on something where, even let's say my own business, right? Where I think the most confusing part of that business, I know what to do if I have a prospect, I can identify a prospect, but all the stuff, like what stuff do I spend my time and money and effort on? And that's kind of like part of what you're solving, right?
Exactly. So I think two of the core principles for any marketing plan that GrowthChannel has in the backend as well is first persona identification. So figuring out who is that ideal customer that you have, not just the demographics, but actually what is their like behavioral and psychographic profile, what their goals are, what are their pain points, what and who influences their decision, how they make their decision, what they like, what they don't like, and basically where do they hang out online, especially. And on the other side, you've got this customer journey map that we call it. It's basically identifying that content and channels, and especially the KPIs that you use for each of those personas. So then it's like your marketing strategy, the go-to that you would work on through the campaign execution.
And then if someone's thinking, hey, maybe this is a way for me to solve this ongoing problem that I have, what's the experience like? Like, what have you guys built and what do I see when I start using it?
Yeah, so the way it works, actually, user goes in and fills in our short questionnaire. That's like the onboarding process during which GrowthChannel would identify the microsegment. And based on that would generate the marketing strategy. The strategy would then go through the simulation. So then running through all the 500 plus data sources that we have to verify the strategy and adjust where necessary before you actually get your plan. So then it's also all QA and top checked to make sure that it delivers the best results.
And is this like great for, is it B2B or B2C, or does it work for any of those types of categories?
Yeah, so our customers can be B2B, B2C. They can target partners even or affiliates. They could also target like candidates, or even like HR could target their employees for any of the campaigns. So we work with any of those 4 major segments. What we try not to work with is the government-related agencies or like industries that have relationship with the government. We did some pilots for construction industry and also for government security, but we figured out that the data sources are actually hard to verify, especially run through the simulation. So we try to kind of stay away from those. So definitely something that we try not to cover. Technically it's possible, but we feel like we are not 100% sure. Plus we want to remain transparent. Transparency is one of the, I think, our core features, because we bring data-driven decisions to you. So transparency is at our product's core. And just to remain transparent, we would like to be kind of neutral also in terms of like any government or religion-related activities. So that's why we kind of stay away from that.
No-go. If you're selling to the government, this is not the tool for you, but everything else.
Exactly.
And then what are some of the results you've seen? Like, people have used it now. I think you said you have 400 customers. Is that right?
Yeah, we have around 400 users as of today.
That's awesome.
And most of them are startups and SMBs, but we're also started recently pushing more in terms of the enterprises. We've got a number of resellers that we work with as well, and partners who are marketing agencies or independent contractors or even accelerators. So those are also some of the parties that we work with. But yeah, I mean, some of the results are really diverse, depends on the industry, who you're targeting, where you're at in your journey. Some of the startups just double their revenue, but it's going to be impossible for a bigger company. So yeah. Some of the bigger companies, they see improvements, let's say 4% conversion rate increase, which is also pretty good. Yeah. But yeah, it really depends. You can't really say like, okay, this is the one thing that we see. And also every plan is really different. When you go through the question and you actually fill in, what is your number one objective that you want to achieve through the plan? Is it brand awareness? Is it, new lead generation? Or is it conversion? Is it product sales? Every business is really, really different. And there are so many different variables that take into consideration to build each of those plans. So it'll be hard to say like what is the let's say
I
generic
some story
thing, but like basically the results vary. Like some of our customers also moved from page 8 of Amazon results to number 1 Amazon results for a specific keyword. So it really depends what you're doing.
So it sounds like the resulting plan is pretty comprehensive. Like it wouldn't say only work for me if I'm using a paid channel. It sounds like you have a resulting marketing strategy that says, here's what you should be doing in paid, organic, direct. Like what categories does it cover of outreach or marketing?
Yeah, so we cover a lot of different digital marketing areas. It's pretty limited when it comes to offline because of the lack of tracking and measurement. And lack of data overall for the offline sources. So majority of it comes for digital marketing. But anything from social down to email to just content marketing, contributions, could be ads, could be media buying, could be programmatic, communities, anything actually. So for you, for example, it might tell you like 10 different communities you should join. Or like 50 different articles you should consider, scheduling in your calendar for the next quarter. Or like different blogs where you could contribute content to, or these are your potential influencers, reach out to them. So it could be anything of that. Yeah.
So even influencer marketing, it'll tie in.
Yeah, there's a small piece of the plan that also includes influencer marketing. It mostly works for like B2C companies we see a lot. Some of them are B2B, but like mostly B2C is much better than that. And so it will tell you like, these are the potential influencers you should focus on and stuff like that.
I love it. That's really interesting. All right. Well, I want to be conscious of your time. Is there anything we haven't touched on that you think is important for people to know?
Well, as we are going into 2021, I think it's just really important to take this moment and just rethink your strategy for next year. I think like going in without a plan is a big big problem. So I definitely would recommend everyone who is listening to just like take this moment, really think about what you're going to be doing next year and how you're going to battle in the whole macro environment, but also like how are you going to keep your current customers happy and how are you going to be acquiring the new ones. So yeah, just to make sure that 2021 is much better than this year as well for your business.
Yeah, actually have a plan. We should. I know I'm going to try it.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. So the domain for people to know is growthchannel.io. You can go there and you can just hit generate my growth plan and it'll start asking you questions and you can come up with some sort of a plan as opposed to just winging it, right?
Exactly. That's how it works. Very easy.
I love it. One other question I had for you before is, we talked before briefly, and last year, I think you did a cohort of the online, or maybe it was this year, of the Y Combinator program, right? The startup school?
Yes, we did it in winter this year. It was awesome.
It was, yeah. I was going to ask you what the experience was like.
Yeah, it was a great experience. I would definitely recommend, like, if you haven't checked it out and if you're a startup developing an interesting project, to look into it. The forum is amazing where you can connect with other startup founders, get advice, get feedback, potentially even get some early users. Lectures are amazing. So they teach you some of the basics for any startup growth, from finding your product market fit to how to talk to customers, to figuring out, okay, what do you actually spend more time on and what you should kind of park on for later. So also a lot of kind of productivity tips. And even some of the like legal, HR, and other administrative stuff for startups as well. So I found it really useful if you're looking for like free access stuff. But yeah, actually my accelerator that I went through, Sputnik ATX, is also looking for the next cohort. Oh, so yeah. If you're in Texas or planning to kind of grow your business in Texas, would definitely recommend you apply. Amazing accelerator, a great experience. And we have grown anywhere from 10 to 4,000 even percent some of the weeks. Week over week growth on revenue. So great accelerator, definitely recommends.
That's awesome. All right. Let's wrap up with a few quick questions here. The first is, if you could recommend only one book that people read in the world, what would that book be?
The Shoe Dog.
The Shoe Dog. Oh, I love it.
Yeah. Okay,
tell people what Shoe Dog is.
Yeah, so that's basically the story of the Nike founder. It's a great book. It's a little long, I think, but definitely worth the time. Just like a chapter a day at least, or something like that. It's really motivational, but also gives you an idea that, okay, everything is going to be hard in this world. It's just really just to keep on going and keep on moving. And finding that next goal to reach. So I think that's just a great book to read for any startup founder. Really I
agree with you. And it's funny because you're the second person in a week that's kind of brought that book up to me. And I mentioned to you the new book that I'm writing, Form Your Own Pack. And I referenced the Japanese Keiretsu model. And there's a really interesting tie-in between how Nike actually became and that business model. And particularly, I cite a story from it where Nike almost was no more. Like it almost never existed, right? You probably know the one I'm talking about. But so I do love that book. That's a great book recommendation. Jim Rohn says that you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and it doesn't have to be 5, but who do you spend the most time with?
Well, I actually spend the most time with my family, and not just because of the lockdown, but also because that's the time that I kind of choose to spend the time with. But yeah, I mean, that's 2, by the way. And the other people, I would say that most probably some of my close friends, and also because of like most recent changes in our business environment, our team. So definitely speak a lot with our team, and we have grown from 3 to 13 in this 1 year. So it's more than 5 for sure, but yeah, just spending lots of time with the teams is like second family.
Well, I mean, that's a testament that you are the growth channel if you're gone from 3 to 13 already. So that's great. All right. So how are you changing the world?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think one thing that we want to change in the world is just to make sure that there's no startup or SMB that basically goes out of business because they don't know how to market it. And that's a lot. Around 90% of startups fail. We all know that. And most of the reasons are because of the lack of the product market fit, but also because they don't know how to market it, or they don't know how to find it for those first customers. Basically, to go from 0 to 10 is really hard. A lot of, especially tech startups, they have great software engineers on board, so a lot of technical background, technical founders, but it's really hard for them to really figure out how do I, once I usually actually just the mentality like I'll build this and then someone will use it. But the idea that should be here is like, okay, I'm thinking about this, so I need to speak to users early on, and there is this bridge that's and big challenge for them to even like find who to speak to, what questions to ask. And I think then the good book is the Mom Test, by the way. Should definitely read the Mom Test for those who are struggling. Mom Test.
Like the Mom Test? M-U-M?
Yeah.
Test. Okay.
Yeah, the Mom Test. So it's a really good book in terms of like how to speak with early users and just like any users and figure out, how can we further build our product? Like, what are the challenges that people see in the market? Is there a challenge? Would they potentially be using my product or not? But actually, the book tells you how to ask the right questions without exposing your product. Because if you say, oh, I'm building this, and they're like, oh, great, yeah, you should totally do that. So how do you avoid those kind of things? Like you're going to be asking questions like, oh, what do you do in that situation? And why do you do that? And what do you use? And stuff like this. So good book to read for technical founders. Yeah. But overall, it's just really like helping startups and SMBs to market their business and find the users for them.
Well, you're solving a huge problem that I know that most businesses that I encounter, and including my own, have, which is the uncertainty about what do we do and where do we spend our time and what's going to get results potentially. Let's give us the best chance to get results on that. So I applaud you for that mission. The final thing is, when we have interesting people on the podcast, we like you to nominate other interesting people to be a guest on Automate and Grow. We typically talk to experts or entrepreneurs about the person they serve and problems they solve. So who would you like to nominate as a future guest of the Automate and Grow podcast?
That's a good question. I might actually want to recommend some of my customers.
Okay.
That would depend, I guess, if they say yes or no. But
yeah, they could say no, but at least we can nominate them.
Yeah, I would definitely nominate maybe Lorenzo Carver. So he is one of my customers, but also partners. We've known each other for a few months. We met on Pioneer Tournament.
Oh, good.
So it's really interesting also community. He's building lots of cool stuff, and I'm sure has lots of kind of things to share. So might be interested in this.
Yeah.
But again, it's like for him to confirm if this is something that, yeah. But he's building great stuff. So he has an Alexa skill for kind of toddler education for math. It's really cool.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah, it's really innovative product. I love it. And I think he's got tens of thousands of users as well. So has lots of most probably things to share in terms of insights.
Okay, and I don't know why I know this name for some reason, but so Lorenzo Carver, you've been nominated. Maryna has nominated you to be a future guest of the Automate and Grow podcast. I want to thank you for spending time with me today and sharing me the story of GrowthChannel. I'm really excited about what you guys are working on. Yeah,
thanks for having me. It was great to speak with you.
Anytime, come back and I will try to connect with you when I'm in Austin.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you. This has been another episode of the Automate and Grow podcast. We will see you on a future episode of Automate and Grow.